Hello there, this is Hatu from Asian Agribiz. Today, my colleague Rajeshwari Ramani will be speaking with Mr. Hans Hoevink, Business Development Manager of Nedap Livestock Management, where he will outlay reasons why group sow housing is prominent in pig farming.
In line with consumer awareness of good animal raising practices, group sow housing in pig farming is becoming increasingly accepted. However, group housing is also proving to be a better payoff for producers other than just for welfare reasons. So large corporations such as CP move to end crate farrowing completely and invest in group housing. We look at the viability, investment and time required for such adaptation, creating a win-win situation for stakeholders. Good morning, Hans. Welcome back to another Asian Agribiz podcast, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you very much, Boo, for giving this podcast for Asian Pork Magazine.
Okay, so can you tell us what are some of the factors that need to be considered while transitioning to group sow housing, and what advantages or disadvantages we can expect?
Well, yeah, sure. Group housing system is already a very old way of keeping sows. From the natural habitat of the pigs are normally living in groups, so group housing system for animals are the most natural reasons of doing this. There are several ways to implement group housing system for sows. We see free access stalls, we see stanchions. Nedap do it a little bit different. We are doing it with smart solutions. We are using identification system for sows. We are using RFID, radio frequent identification. For every sow, we'll have a unique number and will be housed in group housing system. The advantages of group housing system, what I already mentioned, is we are bringing the sows back into their natural habitat. Because of their natural habitats, they will have more space for walking and will have a better development of their muscles. Because of that, we will create a longer lifetime for the sows, saving labor, what will lead to less use of antibiotics. And most important for many farms in the future will be the input and output of data, what's coming out of the farm, what can be monitored throughout several locations and several farms. Of course, there's also some disadvantages, but the disadvantage what we see is that basically is the mindset of the traditional farmers. People are difficult to change their mindset because of we have always done this and we know this is working. The other thing what we see as on farms is that farms are increasing their level of technology, what will lead to difficulties of getting the good workers. Knowledge on the farms. So we have to also educate people on the farm.
Okay, so in terms of biosecurity, how does group housing fare and why?
Well, biosecurity becomes by farms by entering and exit animals, feed and people. So inside a farm, we are supporting a little bit, or we are contribute a little bit on biosecurity. Based on healthier animals. So that means our sows who are on the group housing system have a longer lifetime. That means we have less replacement. Less replacement will lead also to less input of animals, will lead to less input of young gilts. So less input of animals will lead to a lower pressure or a higher biosecurity. Also with the technology what we are implementing on the farms, we also see that we can do it with less people, and also input of people will be an advantage of better biosecurity. And of course, with the healthier, stronger sows by unique feeding systems of Nedap, we can reduce the antibiotics on every individual animal.
Okay, so when it comes to precision and smart farming, such as what you mentioned, electronic feeding, big data and weight management, how can this be worked into the group housing system?
It's always a nice word, smart farming, precision farming, big data. Everybody's talking about it, but it's not that easy. what we are doing, I mean, we from Nedap, we are a software development and a hardware development company for many sectors around the globe, so not only pigs.
Yeah.
But the key for creating data or creating a smart farm is that it will lead to more data, what will lead to better production and saving costs. That's the whole key of getting data. Doing the right, getting the right knowledge, the right data, and making the right decision for real time 24/7. With the Nedap ESF, so electronic sow feeding, and the Nedap farrowing feeding, we will control 24/7 the feed intake per individual sow. That will lead to more information and better data for the farm manager to make the right decision at the right time. With the Nedap electronic sow feeding, it's not only that we are feeding the sows automatically, but we also can correct the feed curve automatically, what will lead to a lower feed intake, reduce of feed, what will lead to a reduction of feed costs. That's of course the most important issue on the farms, because 70% of their cost on pig farm is feed cost. So when we can optimize the feed intake, when we can optimize the use of feeds and having less feed wastage by using smart solutions, by using smart farming, well, this will lead automatically to better production and better return on investment.
Okay, so there is a belief that using individual stall housing is deemed better in reducing stress and injuries stemming from fighting. And stalls also enable easier medical care, artificial insemination, and feed management. Some say the outcome of animal health in both instances, whether stall or group housing, are the same. So then why is group housing encouraged?
That's a nice question. I've been in the business for more than 20 years in the pig industry, and I've been doing already more than 15 years group housing system. I would like to encourage everybody who has the possibility to go to a farm where they have implemented group housing system, especially a large group housing with 200 or 300 sows in one dynamic pen. Because you will all of those who have been there will see that it's very quiet and very low stress. I always compare this level of stress in group housing system with feeding twice a day when sows are in stalls. When the farm manager comes into the farm with stall farms and he opens the door, all the pigs are starting to scream because they know they're getting fed. In the case of using group housing system and especially a dynamic system, we are feeding 24/7. So we are feeding 24 hours a day. So the sows will go back to the natural habitat and find out who's the most dominant one and will be first going to the feed station. This will lead to actually a lower stress level compared to 2 times a day feeding when they are in stalls. That's one thing. The other thing is we see also from our customers that the reduction, the animals are more healthier because what I said, they are walking more, so they have some exercise to do, and that will lead to a better condition of the sows. So we actually can reduce the amount of antibiotics on the farms by having a better condition. So actually, implementing the electronic sow feeding or implementing group housing system will actually lead to less stress and less fighting. I know that people who are always working with a conventional system and will move to group housing system will always have this fear at the first time. So that's why I would encourage, if everybody has the chance, visit a farm with group housing system and you will find out that there's actually less stress and less fighting. Important in this case is that you do it on a proper way, you do it on a good way. So the design of the farm, so the setup of the farm, it's very important to be successful with group housing system. One small mistake can lead to a higher stress and can lead to difficulties of not having healthier sows.
That's really interesting. So that kind of brings me to another question. Mixing of the sows. I read that it's also important. You talked about the importance of the feeding systems in the group housing structure. But what about mixing sows? What kind of groups can actually go into the group pens, and how does that work?
We encourage to have large dynamic groups. That means every parity, every pregnancy stage can be mixed and also will be mixed. Important always that every time you are implemented a new batch of sows, it has to be a minimum of 5 sows who are having the same mating date, because they will stick together as a group. To give a small example and looking back to the humans, when I go to a bar alone, everybody looks at me and think, who is this guy? When I come with 20 friends into a bar, nobody's take care when there are 1,000 people going to a festival. Same thing is more or less pigs. Pigs are a group housing animal, so they are on a natural habitat. They are used to living together. So important is, again, when you implementing new animals into group housing system, it has to be a minimum of 5 in a big, large dynamic groups. The group size, what we are advising, is maximum of 360 in one big dynamic pen. With the use of RFID, we are not only feeding them automatically, we can also weigh them automatically. What will give them, what will give the farm manager automatically the right condition at the right time, and can change the feed curve on the right time. So it will lead to a huge improvement of your health of the sows, what will lead to less injury and less fighting.
All right. So what about the producers themselves? Once you are already used to the stall system and you know that the management is easier, then you have to transition into a group system. How could they actually get used to that kind of different kind of like a management of herds?
Yes, this is always for us the biggest challenge, because first of all we have to tell people or have to explain people how the system is working, and then we have to train people how to use it. We do this with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of experience. So we're not only selling, but we're also helping to start up, train the people and train the animals. This is very important because the system runs 24/7. A computer does not make failures. The things who make failures are the people. So we are there with a dedicated amount of people around the world who will train farm managers, who will train the pigs to start up the system well. With that, you get the best results out of the farm.
Okay, that's a really good answer. The next one is in the Southeast Asian region, where there are big companies with resources to invest in group housing. Transition is minimal. What would encourage them to make the shift, and how long might that take, you think?
Well, we have already some big we call it powerhouses or big integrators who are changing their setup from traditional stalls into group housing system. For them, and I mentioned, for example, Maple Leaf in Canada or Betagro in Thailand. For them, there are several reasons why they are doing it. The most important reason is that the mindset of the company. So animal welfare treated meat, they're selling their meat to the supermarkets. The consumer will have more and more influence on the future. So for them, it's important to not only tell it, but also do it. Show the customer that they are producing, let's say, animal friendly and animal welfare treated meat. The other thing is what we see more and more is that all these companies are getting more and more data driven. They would like to know what's happening on the farm. In the traditional sow farms with stalls, you have a silo, you have an auger, and we fill up the silo. They don't know nothing, or they don't know much about every individual animal. With using RFID, you can trace and track and check every individual animal on different locations. So data will get more and more a key for these big companies, for these big integrators, for these companies who are selling their meat to the market. So data is a very important point for them to know what's happening on the farm, because they can react. So for them, it's not only animal welfare, it's also cost. Because when you can save 10% on your feed cost on 50 or 100,000 sow farm level farms, then it's a lot of money. And what I mentioned already before, 70% of the cost on farms is feed. So with the right amount of feed, with the right body condition of the sows, it will lead to a better return on investment and a better production.
Okay. How do you see the prevalence of group sow housing growing in Asia, and in what span of time do you see that?
Let's say it's not forced by law yet in some countries in Asia. There are some companies who are pushing it. You already mentioned in your introduction about CP and Betagro. They are pushing it to build farms on group housing sows. This is not because it's not because of law. So what we are trying to do to convince people that think about when you're building a farm, how would the pig industry look like within the next 20 years? Not the next 2 years, but the next 20 years. So think about how the industry has been changed the last 20 years and how it will be changed the next 20 years. And changing of this industry, most of the big integrators, big companies will see that animal welfare is also will become an issue in Asia. Consumer influence will be also having more influence on the production of pigs. Data-driven companies, so knowing what's happening on the farm, will be more and more interested. So these are for us the key points to inform the customers in Asia to encourage them to using group housing systems, and especially electronic sow feeding systems. The time frame, what we are looking at, is of course longer than in Europe, because in Europe it is by law. We need to put the sows in group housing system, but we will just push it slowly, step by step, market by market, consumer by consumer. Once we are, and what I said, the market is changing. With the African swine fever, the smaller backyard farming will disappear, and the more big companies will, let's say, integrators will come and invest on the market. And we just have to convince them that think about how you're going to build your farm. How is your farm look like within the next 20 years?
Okay, that's great. Hans, thank you for giving us an insight today on why group housing is the best way to go, both in terms of welfare and also it being a better payoff for producers, especially in terms of consumer assurance. Hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy listening to this latest edition in our Asian Agribiz podcast about the benefits of group sow housing. You may read and listen to related articles and podcasts on our website at www.asian-agribiz.com. Tune in again soon for another insightful edition from us. This is Hatu. Take care.